No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we go. It's another day, another dollar, another Mike Lodge, the business advisor. You're here again. I'm glad that you guys are here. I always enjoy it when I know that people are listening to this podcast, because I don't know. Sometimes I get very little feedback of who's listening out there. So if you want to give me some feedback, I'd love to hear. Listen, over the past few weeks and months and years, because I've been doing this podcast a long time, I have talked a lot about the ethics of business. A lot. In fact, I even think I've talked about it once before in this week. But every day, I read more about unethical behavior in companies. One of them, and we all know this company's name, Ericsson. Ericsson's a Swedish company. It produces electronic stuff. All of us probably have some sort of Ericsson device in our house, car, mobile home, camper, I don't know, house, office. We probably have it. But Ericsson has to plead guilty in U.S. to federal bribery violations. And you know what it's agreed to pay? $206 million penalty. Now, that's kind of interesting only because they've been caught at it before. They've been caught at it before doing unethical things, bribery. So I'm going to read you just a little bit about this because it is an amazing situation. Let me find it here. Excuse me. It's early morning here. I'm looking outside and it's absolutely dark. It's black outside because it's so early in the morning. Anyway, Swedish telecommunications giant Ericsson agreed to pay a $206 million penalty and pleaded guilty to violating the anti-bribery provisions of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, U.S. prosecutors announced on Thursday evening. Ericsson had already paid a $520 million penalty in 2019 over what New York federal prosecutors said was a year-long campaign of corruption. But it wasn't just a year, it was years that they've been doing this, involving the bribery of government officials and the falsification of books and records in Djibouti and China and Vietnam, Indonesia, and Kuwait. Additionally, the company paid about $540 million to the Securities and Exchange Commission. As a result of the 2019 settlement, the company entered into a deferred prosecution agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. But the Department of Justice said Ericsson violated the agreement by failing to truthfully disclose all factual information and evidence involving the company's schemes in Djibouti and China. The company also allegedly failed to disclose possible evidence of a similar scheme in Iraq. Ericsson used outside consultants to pay bribes to government officials and manage off-the-book slush funds in all 5 countries, prosecutors said, using sham contracts and the false invoices to obscure the nature of the funds, according to the deferred prosecution agreement. Ericsson employees in China, Ericsson employees in China caused tens of millions of dollars to be paid out to agents and consultants, at least a portion of which was used to provide things of value, including leisure travel and entertainment to foreign officials, including a state-owned telecommunications company, the DOJ said. In Djibouti, the Justice Department said an Ericsson employee paid over $2 million in bribes to high-ranking government officials in the country, executive branch, and in the Djibouti state-owned telecommunications firm. Now, I'm going to post this article down below because I want you to read it in full. And when I talk about ethics, this is, bribe is a criminal offense. That is a criminal offense. It's an unethical act. But we see companies like this doing it all the time. Now, these are foreign companies, and their ethic policies are not what they should be, because if the SEC is going after you, you've done something pretty damn bad. And that's what's happened with Ericsson, is that they went out and they started bribing government officials. Now you wonder how many American government officials were bribed. Did any money transfer over? We don't know. Sometimes when it's a U.S. government official, sometimes it's not told. And that's what the sad part is. But we don't know if any government officials in the United States did any of this. But we do know that Ericsson, a corporation traded on the Securities and Exchange Commission, were doing bribery, illegal acts. Now, this is a common policy when you're dealing with Chinese companies. I'll tell you a good experience of mine. I went over to Hong Kong to visit one of my clients' plants. But the plant was in China, but the corporate offices were in Hong Kong in the new territories. We had to get a phone line to go from Hong Kong over into China so that we could talk to our plant. The way that you have to do this, you have to go and buy some really expensive cognac. You have to buy some expensive cigars or cigarettes and some other favorables. Because this is the way that things are done in China, because they have no ethics. It's all about, what am I going to get from it? And as a matter of fact, I had a client one time that was building a Chinese plant, and all of the Chinese officials came and were wanting money. They wanted bribes. Hey, if you want to do business in my territory, you got to pay up. So they literally abandoned that project and moved it to someplace else. But that's how it's done in China. So if you expect Chinese companies to play fairly or to report correctly, that has always been the worst problem. Now, Ericsson should have known better. Ericsson's a big corporation, and they should have known that bribery is illegal, especially if you're dealing in the United States. But they went out and did it. Not just once, but twice. That's a lot of money for shareholders to have to eat because of unethical activity. The other thing that bothered me this morning, and because I saw a title that said FTX might not have been the only crypto exchange using customer money for other things. And they're talking specifically about Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was going out and putting the money into hedge funds, it appears, without really getting the approval of people who had invested in crypto with their company. So Bitcoin, the world's most popular token, jumped roughly 40% in January, though it made a measly 1% gain. I don't understand, when you are not performing and your stock goes up, it doesn't make any sense. That's manipulated. So the world's largest crypto exchange reportedly transferred nearly $1.8 billion in stablecoin collateral to hedge funds, the report said. Now, Forbes is the one reporting this, and they said it concluded that over $1 billion of customer assets were left exposed and were not backed one-to-one as the exchange had previously stated. I have been talking about crypto and Bitcoin for so long. If you really want to get into bad, unethical activity, look at those types of companies. There's nobody monitoring them until finally someone brings up a lawsuit. But there's no one monitoring how they are handling the funds of investors. No one's monitoring them on the rules and ethics of how they're performing. So we have an unethical investment scheme, and I call it a scheme because no one understands how these companies are making money in crypto and Bitcoin. And there's so much unethical activity out there. I get hit almost on a daily basis by somebody trying to get me involved in crypto. And most of them, 99% of them, have no idea what they're doing. They're just reading a script. They go through the motions, trying to get you to put money into their uncle's fund. A lot of fraud, a lot of corruption, a lot of unethical activity in this field. And in fact, the SEC and also the FDIC came out with a report over the last 2 weeks saying banks have to be very concerned about this. It is a risk because you don't know exactly what's going to happen with these crypto things. Now, if your bank is involved in crypto, get out of it very quickly because I'm telling you, these unethical schemes will hurt your bank and may hurt the deposits that you have in that bank. The FDIC has sent out a warning that this is a highly risky operation, crypto and Bitcoin. So we've already been warned. We were even warned about this with FTX. They knew that something was unethical going on within these companies, and it was a high risk. FDIC came out with a report on this last year, and now the SEC and the FDIC came out with another report over the last 2 weeks. So we know that these things are unethical. I would never put my money into a scheme that I have no confidence in. And we keep reading daily about other prosecutions and other lawsuits going on in the crypto world. So we have to be very careful about this. Stay away from it. I'm telling you, stay away from it. So those are two unethical things that I had to read about this morning as I was gleaning content for this show. We have to be very careful. Companies in the United States have got to pay more attention to the ethics of their company. It has to happen. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. Listen, if you would like to have more access to me or would like to have some advisory work done or business coaching work done, go to www.lodge.co.com. If you would like to send me a business question, send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. And then, if you would like to support my business, my podcast, which is a business, if you'd like to support my podcast and if you would like to read all my blogs that I post there and my podcasts that I post, go to buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. Now, here's the rule of the day. Go out and do something great. Love you guys. Talk with you soon. Stay ethical. Bye-bye.